Welcome to the webinar 12 ways to improve your online meetings. Today I'll be sharing with you 12 ways how you can make your online meetings better. And not only better, a lot better. Before we get started, let me introduce myself quickly. My name is Flo Akinbiyi and I'm a typical German, as you can see. Yes, all Germans have a beautiful throat like me. What I do is actually quite diverse. I've been organizing events for the last 17 years of my life, and also here in Dubai, worked with a range of brands, whether it's luxury, automotive. Also, I've been working as an MC on stage, engaging with audiences, and that's also what my passion is in life. And that led me to my next passion, to educate people. Or face-to-face. And then last but not least, what I added to the portfolio is something for the heart. Something that, well, doesn't bring in as much money as I would wish, but it's really beautiful. I also do officiate and near and dear to my heart. It looks quite diverse, so when you have a look at it, you can see it's quite colorful what I do, and I'm very excited and lucky to be living my dream here in Dubai. Today, we're talking about online meetings and virtual communication. So therefore, I would invite you to make sure that this is not a one-way communication. Can talk to me. So here we go. I would invite you all to go to Slido. So type into your browser sli.do or slido.com, and then on the left side you see a little box where you put in the event number 46001. 46001. You all should go on there right now, because before we get started, before I'll talk more about online meetings and virtual communication and what it means to me, I would like to know from you. So therefore, I will launch a poll, which you can find. Let me share my screen. So here you go, Slido. I am starting the poll right now. So you can tell me, how good are your virtual communication skills? Are they non-existent? I really don't hope that anybody has non-existent communication skills. Are they okay? Are they great? Or are they amazing? So go on to slido.com and tell us, how good are your virtual communication skills? The event number is 46001. While everybody is answering, and I'll keep the poll open, we can go back to the presentation. So far we have one person saying they are okay. I'm sure the others will follow in a second. So that's slido.com event. That's where you can tell us how good are your virtual communication skills. Let's get started with the presentation, and let me set the scene for you. Virtual communication. If you think about it, from one day to another, the way how we work, how we communicate, the way how we do business changed completely. And not only business, also in our private life. There's now house parties, birthday celebrations, all via camera. And that's crazy. On presentations. And now, speaking to camera, nobody ever trained really us. So how do we now cope with this new reality? Of course, we've been using social media. We know a little bit of camera, a video conferencing system, and then every now and then we would have a Skype meeting. But to the extent that we are today, never. So what does that mean? What I'm going to help you to do today. Let's get started with the first tip. It all starts with your setup. It all starts with your setup, and it matters. I mean, I'm sure that all of you have been in these virtual meetings where you have people and you can't see them. It's actually quite horrific to see what they're looking at. Maybe it looks something like this. Let me show you. You have lighting from the back. So all you see is a black face, this bright white overexposed background. That's not a good setup. And then you look at light from the side, also doesn't help you. Or light from the front, doesn't help you. What you want is proper lighting from the front that is just right for you, making sure that everybody can see you. And it's so easy. All you need to do is pick up to the camera. That is the main problem, because most people, they have their video conferences and their video calls and online meetings at their desk, but not at a place where it actually makes sense. Have a look at this. This is a friend of mine. Shout out to Hi. With your social media, he's the man to talk to. We had a meeting, and on the left side, that's what he did beforehand. On the right side, I just told him, take your laptop, move it towards the window, so you have the light coming to the front. So different. Check it out. Isn't that fantastic? As I said, lighting is so important. But let's look at the background. What you have in the background is really important. And this is actually a cool tool. The virtual background. At first I always thought, well, it's more of a gimmick. But you know why it helps you? Because A, it can remove any distractions behind you. Because you don't want to have a really busy background with lots of visual noise. You want to have something clean, something that's event with us. He actually used it as a tool for communication. I thought that was so smart. Look at it. He created this virtual background where he posted some content in. So instead of having a PowerPoint presentation, it was all virtually done. Fantastic tool. And if you say, well, I'm not a graphic designer, I get that. I'm not a graphic designer either. But for as little as 150 dirhams, which is about $30 or something, this company, Associate, will do a virtual background for you. So you can have your own messaging that you want on your background. And if you're still not convinced and say, maybe my camera is not good enough and so on and so forth, again, I get that. But have a look at this. This is what I did today, and I've got this lovely green wall behind me, which is quite okay, and a bit of lighting, and I've got a quite decent photo done. And my hair is not the friendliest for green screen. Keep that in mind. So the virtual background is really a tool that you should be maybe exploring. If it's not the virtual background for you, I highly recommend, and I repeat that, I highly recommend that you quickly look at what is your background and make sure that the camera is too much wall or not showing too much of your ceiling. It's showing you, because you are the center of the communication, not the wall, not the background. It's you. Let me take you to our third tip. We talked about the background and the setup. Let's talk about what else is important. Of course, the camera. As I said it needs to be on eye level. And if it's not on eye level, then you've got these options. Again, from below, from the side, nah, that's not good. From below will maybe show you a bit of your neck, and maybe you can get a nice look into your nose. Definitely not what we want. And eye level is what we want. Because what do we want to have? Communications at eye level. We want to be face to face, looking each other into the eye and feeling that we are somehow connected, although there's a huge distance and social distancing at the moment happening. So the camera is important. So don't use your laptop as a laptop. When you do a meeting, use it as a camera. If you just remember that, you sort it. But the smile is what you really want. Why the smile? Well, of course, you're giving off this friendly, positive vibe. And Tony Robbins says it so well. There are 80 muscles in your face. And if you look at your body, your face is the area in your body with the highest rate of unemployment. Smile a lot. We are quite serious. Females, women, they tend to smile more, which naturally makes them more friendly, more likable. And these days, I rather listen to somebody who's likable than listening to somebody who doesn't look nice at all. So make sure you crack up that smile every now and then. And if you are struggling to remember that, I've got a great tip from you. This tip is actually from Mark Bowden, who is just a fantastic expert on body language. And he said, why don't you just draw up a little post-it with a smiley? Can you see that? A little post-it with a smiley. And you stick that right behind your camera. So every now and then, when you look at your camera, you see that smiley and it will remind you to crack a little smile. That's all it needs, a little smile. Let's talk about the look. And you can already see here, this gentleman has glasses. But before we get to the glasses, let's have a quick laugh, because these days we want to have a little laugh. This is what can go wrong if you are not careful with your outfit. And I really hope this didn't happen to any of you so far.
Tony!
Can you hear us?
Tony!
Oh no! Don't. Jen, call him. Oh my gosh!
I'm going through my pants. I got it.
Oh. Oh boy.
What's up?
Tony, I can see when you're
We can all see you.
I love this video. It just cracks me up. And that's not the only one that you can find out. I know it's so comfortable to just wear your pajamas or your comfy clothes, but when you set up a meeting, and the more important it is, the more dressed apart you should be. But, and that's very important, you also want to make sure that you don't wear home. So your outfit just needs to be right. Right outfit. That brings me also to a very important point. If you're wearing glasses, you need to make sure that your glasses are not giving off too much reflection, because otherwise you can never establish eye contact with the other person, with the person on the other side, because all you can see is this glare, as you can see here. And that's really something easy to avoid. From the look to another piece that is important, and not only for online meetings, but especially in online meetings, it can help you. Why? Well, we're talking about the voice. Use the voice to grab attention. And why can it really help you in online meetings? Well, it's simple. The camera kind of makes you flat. The camera makes you always a little bit more boring and dull. So you can use your voice to really grab the attention of the audience. I like to say, your voice is a Ferrari. And that's what it really is. Your voice is one of the most powerful tools when it comes to verbal communication. Unfortunately, most people drive this Ferrari more like a Nissan Micra. And that's a shame, because you have a Ferrari. I'm going to show you 2 exercises, and you can repeat them at home. And they're so simple, but they are so powerful. But you need to practice. That's why they're called exercises. Here's number 1. It's a piece of a hip-hop song that I just love, Bismarcky. Now I can read out the first 4 lines. Have you ever met a girl that you tried to date, but a year make love she wanted you to wait? Let me tell you a story of my situation. I was talking to this girl from the US nation. Well, all nice and well, and if I want to say something to you, pitch an idea to you, with that enthusiasm, with that bit of voice modulation, you would be like, yeah, okay. Or I can say, the way that I met her was on tour at a concert. She had long hair and a short mini skirt. I just got off talking to the crowd, and guess who I met? And as you can see, there's a difference if I just say something or if I put some meaning behind these words, if I make these words really exciting. The power of voice modulation, and we'll talk about that in a second more. Let me show you first another example. This is a beautiful poem. I'll read out the first 4 lines and then I'll give you a bit of context around that poem. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. Or I can say, it matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. As you can see, there's a difference. I'm making it more dramatic, just with my voice. And you can do that as well. All you need to do by Nelson Mandela over and over and over again when he was in jail. So you can imagine the emotions that were in him, in his heart, in his mind. So if you think just about that and put a bit of meaning behind it, what it means to be the master of your fate, well, your words come across more powerful than ever. And that also works in a business context. When I'm an MC, and that also is right for an online meeting, I can also say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this online meeting where we're going to talk about sales and marketing 2020. Or I can say, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this online meeting. Today we will talk about sales and marketing in 2020. And just with using a little bit of voice modulation, my voice, my talk, my speech becomes a lot more impactful. If you are a person that speaks very fast and you've got that feedback, then I do not only recommend that you use a little bit of voice modulation, but I also recommend that you pause and pay catch up with you. And I tell you why that is so important. Here's the challenge with online meetings and virtual communication. It's just so easy to switch off. Think about it for a second. I mean, I was not listening to you for a second, but there's my phone. So let me just have a quick look at my phone and I'll look at Instagram. Oh, Heidi Klum posted a new picture. Oh, sorry, what were you saying? Or I get into my emails or whatever it is. And that's what you can avoid by making sure the audience actually has enough time to catch up with your thoughts. So use your voice, use it properly. As I said, it's a Ferrari. Let's check if there are any questions from the audience before we now come from the basics into the more advanced part, and there we'll spend a little bit more time. I'll check and see if there are any questions on Slido. We've got the poll, that's great. Everybody says they are okay. So here on Slido, you can ask any questions. If you have any questions, go onto Slido. That's where we can interact. And if you have anything that pops into your mind that is related to online meetings and virtual communication, drop me a question here. I'll go back to the presentation and I'll show you now 6 tips that you can use for better communication and better online meetings. Let's talk about the first one. Short and sweet. Your communication should be short and sweet. And before we go into the actual communication, let's stick first with actually the meetings. If you have a meeting that you could wrap up in an hour rather than 2, then do that. If you can do your status meeting instead of 1 hour in half an hour, then do that. If you can do your check-in with your team instead of 30 minutes, maybe only just 10 minutes, then do that. Because it's exhausting. I spoke to a regional managing director of an international tech company. He's a good friend of mine. You know what he said? Every day he is 6 hours in front of his screen and camera. 6 hours. You know how exhausting this is? 6 hours? Well, and then if you just talk and have these long stretched meetings, doesn't help. So first, keep the meetings short. And then, of course, your communication. Keep it short as well. Less is more. And then if somebody wants to go into detail, well, let's take this race car apart and look into every single piece and element and detail. But before, let's focus on the big picture. Less is more, that is for sure. And of course, get to the point. And that is very important when it comes to also delivering bad messages. Sorry, not messages, actually bad news. When it comes to, you shouldn't be delivering any bad messages at all. But when you deliver bad news, that's when it's really important to get to the point. I had really bad news being delivered to me about 2 months ago. On the other line of the phone, on the other line, he just talked for 10 minutes about telling me what's going to happen. And I was just not in the state of mind to ask him anything, but he would just go around in circles until eventually he came to the point. And that's not what you want to do. So if you want to have the advice of somebody who knows exactly what to do, check out Chris Voss. He's a former FBI negotiator, and he said what you want to do is, number one, you announce that you have to deliver bad news. And you give the person on the other side a moment to just brace. Then you deliver the bad news. And then afterwards, you can then have a conversation. And that's the best way, straight to the point. So really, try to be in your online meetings short and sweet and to the point. Keeping in mind, less is more. That's what you want to do. I'll take you now from less is more to some tools that you can use for your communication. And these tools are very helpful to make sure that your messages are actually being received by making them more structured and more impactful. Because don't forget, right now, and if you're pitching an idea, if you're pitching a concept, if you're trying to convince the audience that this is the right way, then do it right. So use the power of three. The power of three, it's an ancient Greek rhetorical device, and it's called the tricolon. And the tricolon does something for you. It makes your speech more impactful and also more memorable. There's even been research around how does a tricolon stick, but it does. So here's an example how you can make your speech more dramatic. Talent. And there's Simon, who always wears jeans and the white t-shirt, the famous judge. When he did the golden buzzer, when he hit the golden buzzer for this young boy who was playing the violin, he said something like, before you were known as a boy who had cancer, and now you will be known as the boy who won the golden buzzer. And it was nice, but I felt he could make it more dramatic. And I thought about it, and all he would have needed to say would be this. First, you were known as the boy who had cancer. Then you turned into the boy who played the violin. And now you will be forever known as the boy who has won the golden buzzer. Boom! You hit that golden buzzer. And it's just a little bit more impactful, dramatic, and also memorable. The power of three. So you use 3 arguments to present your ideas. And the power of 3 you can also use to structure your presentation, to structure your pitch, to structure your thoughts or your speech. Here's the first one. Zoom. You zoom in or you zoom out. So you get either from far away to really close or the other way around. I'll give you an example. Let's talk about coronavirus. A few weeks ago, around the entire world, you had 2 million cases. When you then went to the Middle East, you had about 100,000 cases. And in the UAE, at that time, we had about 5,000 cases. So we're zooming in from the world to the Middle East to the UAE. And that gives you the opportunity to compare the world to the UAE, the world to the Middle East, and everything, just in a very organized way. The Zoom, fantastic tool. Then you've got, of course, one, and I hope that everybody knows this structure: problem, solution, benefit. So you start with the problem, then you talk about the solution, and then take them to the benefit. And of course, you can also then change the problem into a situation, or just say, what's the product, what's the service, and then talk about the solution and benefit. You can play that in different ways. Play around with that structure: problem, solution, benefit. Everybody should be knowing that. And now here's one of my favorite ones. Take a quick moment to think, why is this my favorite structure? There's actually a few reasons for that. Let's look at it. Number one, we're starting with my story. So when you start with my story, you're connecting with the audience because you have to reveal something. You have to give your personal view. So that's really good. Then number two, we're using storytelling. Storytelling is a great way to connect with the audience, to make your talk more exciting. And also, stories are always more memorable than any other form of communication. If you want to shoot facts at the audience, well, go ahead, do that. But then try to see how many facts they can remember. Don't forget, our brain makes sense of the world in stories. We learned and understood the world in stories. When we sleep at night, we dream in stories. Stories is the way how we operate. So stories is a powerful tool when it comes to communication. And then from my story, I'll take you into our story. So again, a connection. We're building a connection with the audience on a deep level because we're now talking about our shared story. And then from that point on, we go into what's next. Yeah, as simple as that. You use that structure and you've got a tool that is just mind-blowing. If you want to see an absolutely amazing speech, watch Oprah Winfrey as she receives the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Golden Globes. She just nails it. She just nails it. And it's such a powerful speech. You can really see how you can use this tool to make a real impact with the audience. My story, our story, what's next? I hope you're writing this one down because that is an absolutely powerful tool. And as I said already, it's about revealing something from yourself. That's the first part. And that leads us to authenticity. Authenticity is today more important than ever, to show the reality and the real you. And how can you do that? And what does authenticity really mean? Well, I had a chat with Helen Lovedale, who's an executive coach, and she will now give us a bit more insight into what it means to be an authentic communicator. So enjoy this video that I recorded yesterday for you guys with Helen Lovedale.
I'm here with Helen Lovedale. She's the managing director of the People's Development Specialist, an ICF accredited executive coach, a coach trainer and supervisor, of a team facilitator with more than 18 years of executive experience, including 14 years in the Middle East region. Hi, Helen. Welcome.
Hi, Flo. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Can you give us just a little bit of context? What do you do in your professional life?
Yeah, so I'm mostly an executive coach, which means I work with leaders and managers in a whole variety of different organizations, mostly focusing on one-to-one executive coaching. And that's really about making sort of good employees and good leaders even better. So it's taking people's potential and making it blossom even further. And we do that through really listening and questioning really, really well.
That sounds good, making people better. Now, today we want to talk about authenticity. Where does authenticity come in your work into play, especially in the context of speaking and communication?
Yes, so I guess when you are involved in a coaching engagement, you get to know the other person pretty well, and you can see them laid bare. They'll often reveal stuff to a coach that they might not reveal to anybody else. And so you really get to see the real person, for all their strengths and, some of their development areas too. And where I think it's important is that other people get to see that real person, because for me, that's the definition of authenticity, is when and not necessarily like
seeing the real person. But that's not easy, right? A lot of professionals always have the feeling that they need to be in a box. How do you overcome this barrier?
Yeah, it's such a good point, Flo. I think, I certainly, sort of guilty of that as well. I think, even just sort of sitting here on camera thinking, gosh, this is me as Helen Loveday, the managing director, and surely I need to be saying this and doing this. And I am genuinely feeling a little bit nervous about doing this interview. But that's actually demonstrating some authenticity and, saying, well, hey, I'm just the same as you. And what's really interesting about authenticity, I think, is that it's because it's about showing your true self, people are much more likely to trust you and believe you're saying. And that's really kind of what makes it so important. Because there's some really interesting research by Amy Cuddy, who is a Harvard Business School professor. And she's done a lot of work on presence. She's got a book out that's called Presence. And she believes, or her research shows, that to have that presence and for people to really receive your messages, it's about warmth and competence. What we tend to think is that the competence bit is more important. As professionals, we think, oh, it must all be about competence. But actually, her research shows that warmth or trustworthiness has to come first. That's what's evaluated first. And only once trust has been established do people then evaluate your competence.
Warmth is a really good point. I mean, especially these days, I'm sure that you've seen leaders doing great messaging these days, so messaging going horribly wrong. How can you really communicate messages from the heart as a leader and still have that competence?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is being prepared to be a little bit vulnerable. And people often, certainly when I've talked to leaders and the executives that I coach, the immediate reaction is to shrink away from the word vulnerability. But actually it is, and it's not about, I think what's really important to remember here is it's not about disclosure. You're not about to reveal your entire self. But if you can, like you say, we've seen some not great messages at this time, but if people can say genuinely, you know what, this is a really difficult time, I'm really struggling, I can't make sense of this, but I'm here for you, this is what I believe at this moment, that can really, really add to that sense of connection. And that's so important in authenticity. So the warmth and the connection by showing a little bit of that vulnerability, which actually means sort of tapping into those emotions sometimes. And I know in my work, sometimes it takes a little bit of time for leaders to get comfortable with even having conversations about emotions, but they're nothing to be afraid of. Emotions are data. They're telling us something. So tap into those, share those, because that's really going to lead to a much stronger connection. And I think the fascinating thing about vulnerability is it's the first thing we look for in other people, but the last thing that we want to show ourselves. But if you can show that vulnerability first, it opens up so much.
That is well said. Very inspiring, very inspiring. So what can I, as an individual, as a professional, do to be more authentic? How can I practice to be more authentic?
That's an interesting question. I think the first thing to really do is to know yourself and really get to grips with yourself. So it's a lot to do with self-awareness. And I love the starting point of looking at it from a strengths perspective. So it might be that you've got a really strong detail orientation. You really love getting into the fine details of something. And that's great, and you can show that off. You can say, I really enjoy analysing, I really enjoy getting into the detail. However, that might mean that sometimes I overlook the big picture. And so it's recognizing it's a strength, and often a strength in overdrive is our area for development. So if it might be detail orientation, and it means that sometimes you can't see the big picture, so first of all, it's knowing your strength, and then maybe also asking for feedback on it, which again feels a little bit vulnerable, feels a little bit risky, but it can bring so much. So if you say to somebody, I know this is an area that I need to work on, can you pick me up on it if I am going into too much detail and I need to stand back and see the bigger picture? Maybe check in once you've delivered that presentation, whatever it might be, and just say, how did I do? Did I do too much detail? So yeah, so I think, how can we practice it? So it's absolutely about getting to know yourself first. And the other way you could possibly practice it is about making that genuine connection and wanting to really connect and in an authentic way. And that means not assuming that you know what the other person is thinking. Be curious, ask questions. You can say, this is what I think, and these are the reasons why I think that. What about you? And that opens up the way for a two-way authentic communication.
I love what you just said, not assuming to know what the other person is thinking, because this happens so often when we are just wrapped up in our own thoughts. I know exactly what you're thinking about, but I don't. I'm not inside of your brain. So that's a very powerful technique. So we'll definitely practice that. Thank you so much, Helen. I loved our conversation. I would love to continue our chat, but for this time, this is it. Where can we connect with you? Where can we find you?
Yeah, so the People Development Specialist, my website is thepdspecialists.com. You can find me on LinkedIn as Helen Loveday, and not yet on Instagram. Maybe that's a risk taking from me that I need to think about. But yeah, website or LinkedIn. It'd be lovely to see anybody who wants to connect.
There you go, Helen telling us a little bit what it means to show the real you. That's a great piece and a bit of food for thought from an executive coach who has taught multiple leaders to be more authentic and how you can connect better with an audience. So think about that for a little bit, and then we'll get back to another point that is slightly related. But before we get back, let's talk about focus. Focus is really important. If you are the host of a meeting, you need to be laser focused. You need to be just right there, because nothing is worse than having a meeting and nobody is owning it. If you are the host, you need to own it. You need to make sure that everybody has a say. You need to make sure that everybody's connected. You need to make sure that there's a few housekeeping rules and everybody knows what to do. And you need to keep an eye on this meeting. If you don't do that, then you're not a good host, and the meeting won't be one that people will actually enjoy. So make sure that you are owning this communication and you're not multitasking. So a good rule is to do 20% more. Just do 20% more of everything. If you would be in a normal meeting and you would be just sitting there, well, make sure you go the extra mile. You ask maybe a few more questions, you interact more, you do more. And also for a listener, for somebody who's on the other side listening, you also can do your bit. Switch on your camera and nod and shake your head. Give a thumbs up, do a clap, interact, right? In a meeting face to face, most likely you would also do something. So do the same virtually, and that just makes it so much better for the person on the other side who's presenting right now. It's a big change. So you really want to help out the presenter and make sure that they also feel comfortable and they feel that the audience is actually connected with them. And that's the next point, connection. We already talked about authenticity. We talked about storytelling. And why is this so important to have a connection with the audience? Well, let me show you what the audience is all about. This is the audience. And I always use this picture pre-COVID. Pre-coronavirus, when the world was a different place, but the audience was the same, and this mindset was already back then a reality. What you see is a person in the center, and then you've got all these different forms of communication going through messages. There's text messages, there's social media, and let's just say Instagram, LinkedIn, maybe Facebook. Then you've got advertisements, and then maybe you have some family stuff, and maybe you have a game, and maybe you've got Netflix, and there's so much of communication happening. It's absolutely crazy. And then coronavirus hit. What did that do? Well, I can tell you. More virtual communication. I've got more text messages unanswered, more WhatsApp messages unanswered, more emails unanswered than ever before. And then there's also a layer of uncertainty, maybe even through this barrier. You need to break through this barrier to reach the audience and to connect with them. And that's not an easy job. So what worked back then face to face is not enough anymore. Not good enough anymore. You need to now step. You need to be hungry. You need to instill in your mind that whenever you do an online meeting, and also when we go back to face, you need to make sure that you want to win over and face to face, because you could knock everybody's attention. You can knock on your table, but maybe nobody hears it. So you need to make sure that the audience is really connected with you. So have this hunger. Make it your mission. I'm in this meeting, I'm presenting, and I will make sure that everybody will listen. A friend of mine, he's a managing director, he did a 4-hour online meeting with his team. And then he was at the end surprised that somebody fell asleep. Well, I already told you. When you put your meeting together, you need to think about this. How can I create this connection? One point, of course, is establishing trust. Goes along with authenticity, to show the people the real you, to communicate messages from the heart. But that's not enough. And make sure that we're just refreshing for a little bit, and then we can go back. So that's what I really recommend, to use humor. And of course, I mentioned it before. I hope you were all listening when I told you about this amazing structure that I love so much. My story, our story, what's next? It's one of my favorite stories because we're talking about storytelling. And storytelling is also a great way to connect with the audience. So use these tools to create a connection with the audience that is so strong, to make sure that everybody loves listening to you. At least, we're talking about technology. And we're doing online meetings. So shouldn't we be using more technology? Question mark. Well, think about it. Most online meetings, people are quite lazy. All they do is use the tools that they've always been using. They do, and if they are using the chat function, and maybe on top of that, they are using a poll that is already existing in Zoom, for example. That's it. Not good enough. I already showed you Slido, and Slido is a great tool. You can do polls in there, you can do Q&As in there, and you can also do quizzes in there. So you've got 3 functionalities all in one tool. Easy to set up, free if you don't use too many polls. Or you use a tool like this. All the ideas that the team had. So everybody can log into this tool, set up, write down their ideas, and then we can list them, we can prioritize them, we can vote for the best ideas, and as a team we can come up with the best ideas for the tool. And this tool, Video Ask, is quite spectacular. I'll show you a video first and then I'll explain.
Pretty good. I really didn't like.
Video Ask. What's cool about Video Ask? I'll tell you. It can replace an online meeting. All you need to do is you go into Video Ask, you create an account. So you could be asking, can I please have your feedback on this and this? And then you'll send a link to everybody who should getting this communication, and they can respond then either with a text or with a multiple choice answer or with a video. So you're making it very easy for them to communicate, and you're getting FaceTime, and that without setting up another online meeting. You can have 20 minutes of content that is answered by the other person if I'm not completely wrong, and that's for free. Amazing, but I've not seen anybody using it so far. Learning, whether it's for just having a bit of a breather and doing a fun activity, Kahoot is your baby. Kahoot is amazing. It's really fun, it's very visual, it's very exciting, and all you have to do is set up an account, put in your questions, and off you go. I can highly recommend that. And last but not least, this is something that just blew my mind. I found it last week, and it's an AR app, augmented reality. Augmented reality is, it's basically with your camera, record, look at it through the world, through your camera, and what it does then, it overlays the reality with another image, and that can be anything. Why is that important for an online meeting? Well, I'll tell you. What you want to do is something new. We're having a fresh idea. So let me show you what I did. I am no magician. I'm not an IT specialist, but if you follow me onto web.zappar.com, and then you will see this screen. You can see it here. You click on launch, and you have to give access to your card. Now you can see my face, and I'll try to show it to you. Let's see if it works. If you then scan the, see if that works. Let me scan it for you. I'll scan the QR code. Yep, and it happened. And now what you can see is I've got my website in there. So if you're scanning it on your computer, it looks like your website is now appearing on the screen. And that can be any content, anything that you want. It could be a website, it could be a video, it could be an image, it could be something. But that's creative. That can stay on your phone. It's a nice tool. And here's the best news. You know how long it took me to set this up? 5 minutes. 5 minutes for an AR app. And that's now for you the opportunity to go onto my website and check it out. As simple as that, 5 minutes. And your online meeting is in a new dimension. You even have them now on your phone, so you can take them onto your next communication. As simple as that. Well, the tools are out there. All you have to do is do a bit of research, dig in deep, and find something that works for your particular case. And of course, there's one more tool that I'm going to give you, and it's a tool that is not used enough. Video. I'll show you a video, and then I'll tell you why video is so powerful. Have a look. People lose hope and panic. It is time for you to look beyond the crisis. When governments protect and preserve, it is time for you to prepare for what happens afterwards. The world has seen so many difficult times, wars, skills and qualities, as this is not the time for apologies. The world will change, and it might sound strange, but at the end, everything will be alright, because challenges unite. A message of hope, a little video that I created, a series of videos that I created to spread a message of hope, put out something out there that just gives people a bit of positivity these days. What it does, it will give you focus. If you show a video, you can see that everybody watches the video. So all you need to do is go onto YouTube and find yourself a really good video, something that is content that is really interesting to watch and that is also relevant for you. Then boom, you've got the audience of the you've got the attention of the audience. That's the right way. You've got the attention of the audience with a simple video. Again, YouTube, free content. All you have to do is download it, put it into your presentation, and make sure that you click the right buttons on Zoom or whichever tool you're using to make sure that it's actually streamed out with the computer sound. These are my 12 tips, and I've got more. We're going to do a quiz now, but before we do the quiz and you have the chance to win an amazing prize, I will actually look at the Q&As. Let's go onto Slido. If you have any questions, follow me onto Slido and then we can answer them. Let's see. All right, there's a few questions here. Let's start with the first one. How do you handle internet connection interruptions while you're talking? Well, and that happened to me also quite often. With most of the platforms, you have the option to call in. So your camera might be then going on and off, but you can call in and then you can just continue the meeting. So use the call option, as simple as that. Let's look at the second question. What exercises do you recommend to improve your voice? As I mentioned it, maybe find a poem, poetry, great way to improve your voice and to learn voice modulation. Or a story, of course, a kid's story, really good. And you can play all the characters with your story. You can the worst presentation about admin, about finance, about something that is just so dry as it gets, and you present it with your voice in a way that just blows the mind of the audience. Try what you can do. How can I interact with the other participants in an online meeting? Well, you've got several options here. I showed you quite a few tools now, whether that's Group Map, where you offer the or whether it is something where you have a whiteboard that people can access. You've got apps where you can do that. Idea Flip, for example, everybody has a post-it and you can put in post-its onto a whiteboard. Really cool. Everybody can log in, so you don't have to reveal your name and you can come up with ideas. Or of course, the chat function. And of course, in real life, ask them to give you a show of hands, a thumbs up. Tell me if you're right. So there's many ways to interact. You just need to set them up in a way. Think about technology and think how you can interact. So you have these two directions, face-to-face and technology. Next question. I find that in the beginning of the meeting, the team is not always listening. That's a good one. I tell you what the challenge is here. If you have them not listening in the beginning of the meeting, then it's going to be very difficult to get their attention as you go through the meeting. So what you want to do here is to have an opening that is just spectacularly super strong. So that could be a video. It could be a story. It could be a shocking have something in the beginning that is so strong, so powerful that everybody wants to listen. Try out different things, but be bold. Be bold. Next question. Professionalism. You're talking about authenticity and what Helen said. That's actually a very good point. I'll tell you no. Because think about it for 1 second. You are already in more from your personality than ever before. So if you think about that, it kind of makes sense that you say, well, let me reveal more of my personality. But then also on the other hand, think about entrepreneurs. Think about Mark Zuckerberg, who was running around with a t-shirt can find that in so many cases. If what you deliver is amazing, it matters not so much how much of your personality you show. It can actually be an advantage. And that is really true. It can be an advantage. If you think about my personality, for example, that's how it is. And that's not just for me being on a stage, it's also for coaches. I am friends with a coach and he's got this amazing hairstyle, really, really cool. And one of the reasons why some clients love working with him is because he's got this fresh personality that just stands out, and it's always a so don't be shy to show your real personality. What do you recommend? Would you recommend ice-breaking, story, or humor in virtual meetings? Breaking. Well, I recommend both. You can use humor or you could use a story. What's tricky here is, especially with humor, you need to be thinking and you need to switch on your emotional intelligence. Is this the right meeting, the right occasion? Is this the right audience to be humorous right from the start? And usually you can always push the boundaries a little bit, but humor, you just need to make sure a case study. It can be a good example of what you just saw. It can be so many things. A story can be multiple things. So a story is always a good idea. Always. That's the last question for today. So we'll start now our quiz. And as we're starting our quiz, I am very excited to announce that we have come up with Platinum List with an amazing package. We're offering 2 one-on-one sessions, very, very special price, where you have the opportunity to either work on your introduction, on the way how you introduce yourself in online meetings, or you can work with me on any presentation that you want to make sure that your pitch, your presentation, your ideas are now being 10 times better than before. And I can promise you that 2 sessions is enough. So keep a lookout. We're going to have very shortly a newsletter going out. As I can see, nobody wants to join the quiz, which is okay, because if you're shy, you don't have to answer the quiz. I can also wrap up with you guys in a different way. That we talked about today is on this sheet, whether it's the setup, the lighting, the camera, authenticity, the look, the smile, the voice, short and sweet communication, connection, technology, power of 3 and structure, or focus. It's all on there. And we're going to send this out to every participant of the meeting. Or of course you can get in touch with me, find me on LinkedIn, find me on Instagram, Flo Akinbiyi, and I'll have this shared with you. With that being said, keep a lookout for our offer on Platinum List. I can guarantee you, you do 2 one-on-one sessions with me and you will be able to communicate 10 times better. I'm gonna leave you with one thought. And right now there's a wealth of online learning going on, and it's really good. It's important to expand your horizon, to learn new skills. The one skill that I encourage you all to improve on is communication. Service, that's a call out to all of you for your own sake. You can improve your communication by watching videos of the best speakers and the best presentations. You can improve your communication by having somebody observe you and giving you feedback. You can improve your communication by preparing more. But whatever you do, you should improve your communication, because one thing we know for sure, with the situation that the world is in, supply of manpower, of services and products. And if you want to stand out of the crowd, you need to know how to communicate properly. So please do yourself a favor and invest in communication. With this, I want to say thank you very much. I enjoyed my time with you, and I hope that I will see you soon. Have a great day, and goodbye.